I'm going to talk about the hidden cause of chronic fatigue that I personally experienced, that I went through. So I was sick for about 15 years, constantly tired, didn't want to do anything, always had to use some type of stimulant or something, even when I got better, to feel any energy. I was just wiped out all the time, right? So at the end of the day, I figured out what was causing this excessive fatigue, and it was not chronic fatigue syndrome, it was mycotoxin illness, okay? The houses I was living in were 50 years old, 70 years old, some were even 100 years old, and I didn't realize that there's mycotoxins that had developed over time in these homes, and my body had become sensitive to them. And when I started having all these IgE reactions to these mycotoxins, I started to drain my reserves and exhaust my body, and the fatigue would kick in. And then I would spend more time indoors, where I'd be inhaling more of the mycotoxins, and I'd be stuck in this endless cycle of chronic fatigue. And, I thought to myself that it was Epstein-Barr. I thought it was due to a parasite. I thought it was due to, mineral deficiencies. I thought it was due to all kind of things. But the reality was, it was more due to mycotoxin illness, I'd say, and chronic stress, chronic trauma that was unresolved than anything. I don't want to go ahead and leave the trauma out of this, because whenever I would see my daughter flare up from her illness that she finally overcame, thank God, I would be traumatized, and I would suck the life out of me energy wise, So mycotoxin illness, in observing things that stress you or traumatize you or remind you of things from the past you have not addressed, both those things really knock your energy out. But the one that's hidden, that you really can't see often, that I couldn't see for decades of my life, were the mycotoxins. And I know you could have your house tested, do an air test, and it says, oh, we got no mold here, but it's just not that simple. It could be past water damage, it could be water damage behind the walls, there could be a various number of places that the mold could be, or the mycotoxins can be. And the last point I want to make with this video, with chronic fatigue and mycotoxins, it's not about how much mold is in your house or how many mycotoxins are even in your body. It's about how sensitive you are to them. So some people may be sensitized earlier in life when they lived in a moldy house, or they had some, severe health issue, or severe stress, or antibiotic use, or, whatever happened to them that set them up for their chronic fatigue. But the reality is, what happens often is that if they don't address the mycotoxin component, they'll be stuck in this chronic fatigue forever, and they'll be living in the same house that keeps aggravating them, searching for answers everywhere else besides right in front of them. And this was me. I did this for over a decade, and I just don't want it to be you, and that's why I created this video. So go to my website, endsickness.org. I've got hundreds of videos, hundreds of articles about mycotoxin illness, autoimmune disease, mast cell activation, histamine intolerance, all those things. Thanks for watching.